I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? Oh my gosh, it is part two because I have more questions. So I had to bring Theodore on to the show today to talk about a little bit more about his book and about where it came from and how he grew up. And not only that, I am so curious as to the trial and all that stuff. So we're going to have him back on to talk about his book. It is Lovingly and Orderly, A Son's Lament. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so we were getting into it a little bit beforehand, but I needed to talk to you about a couple of different things. And I do have a little bit of the excerpt of the book to show people today, but I wanted to go back a little bit and give us like a background on your growing up and all that stuff, because that's what we were talking about before, and also your neighborhood.
Okay, the community where my siblings I were raised by parents was located in an old, dull, dingy, and neglected neighborhood adjacent to the Acme Barrel Company. The Acme Barrel Company was a loud, noisy plant that emitted immense amount of pollution throughout the entire community. The residents outside of the immediate area of our neighborhood designated the locality where we lived in as Germ City. And I think about, I stopped right there, Germ City, and I used to think about how much we had to go through living in that particular community. As far as the residents who lived there, the majority of them were part of the Great Migration from the South. They were escaping the Jim Crow issues that were going on down there, and they came up north to seek better economic opportunities for their children. And that we were part of one of the greatest migrations in the United States of America. And that was the development of the areas in the north during the time of the early 60s or late 60s to the 70s. And a lot of things were going on. Because I so happened to, my mother thought that we should receive a well-rounded education. So she went the extra mile to pay for us to go to the neighborhood Catholic school in the community. As a result, we became Catholics. That was, I guess, Blacks were getting involved in the Catholic Church because they didn't have a place to worship. And it was a change, but I really did appreciate the fact that I went to a school with a diverse population from all over the world. Subsequently, I went to Whitney Young High School. And in fact, one of my classmates, we graduated in the same class, Michelle Obama.
Oh,
She's
nice.
one of my classmates.
Hey, yeah. That's kind of cool, there, bro. That's kind of cool. Wow. So
Lovingly and Orderly is becoming Theodore Shorter. That's my becoming. That's my becoming of my. I know the title of her book is Becoming Michelle Obama. And mine is more about becoming Theodore Shorter and experiencing it through his mother's wishes for her family after her immediate passing. And so my book is a celebration of life. I really appreciate the fact that I had the mother that I had, and for her to have the foresight that she had in raising her children. We were all raised during the time of the Great Society program that was put in place by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965 after the death of or the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And he wanted to continue in John F. Kennedy's legacy in terms of allowing Black people or African Americans to have an opportunity to be able to lift themselves up. And they had different programs. They had the lead poisoning testing. They gave out food, different things. And my mother was a community representative. And a lot of times I would go with her when she did household visits and meet the people in the community. I guess that's why I got that kind of way about myself and meeting people and trying to do things with love and order.
You have to, you have
Yeah.
to. And I think, back in the day, Chicago was one of those places where you were raised by like generations. It wasn't just
Right.
your mom, it was your mom and your grandma and your great grandma
Oh
and
yeah.
your grandfather with the great uncle and you know, so it was everybody
And
was in
and the,
on
and
raising
truly
you.
it was a village. You had
Mhm.
parents who we were all working people. They came here for economic opportunities. And I will be remiss to not tell you about my father. He's in the chapter titled Red's Death. He was murdered on the
Mm.
south side of Chicago
Mm.
as a result of some things that occurred to him after divorcing my mother.
Mm.
So
Oh wow.
I cover his death and that time in my life. That was the first first relative that was close to me like that had passed away. Um, and I don't know. It was interesting if you read the book and you see exactly how he
Mm.
was murdered and the circumstances surrounding his death,
Mm. Mm.
and
Mm.
that's in chapter 7.
Chapter 7. I wanted to go
Mhm.
ahead and kind of like focus on this for a second. I love the cover of your book. It's beautiful. Is that the flowers that you gave
Thank
your
you, thank
mom,
you.
or is that
No, those
flowers
flowers are
pictures?
those are the indication of, like I think I explained to you, the carnations. And
Okay.
if your mother was live on Mother's Day, you would wear a red carnation, and if she was dead, you
Mm,
wear a white carnation. So I selected the pink. The pink carnations look a
okay.
little bit more in line
Hmm.
with everything.
I I wanted to go through your contents, and you were saying how you have different things going on, and I see that you have this all in. Is this Roman numerals?
Yes. I use the Roman numerals as an indication because of the theme of what I experienced in the Catholic Church. You had the different stations of the cross, and each
Mm-hmm.
one of those stations were Roman numerals throughout the
Mm.
church. So those were the stations of the cross. So I did figure that I would use Roman numerals in
Wow.
connection with what I was brought up
Wow.
with. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I have to say this. It's kind of like it's surreal, really, to think that this is not just any book. This is your life. This is something that
Yes.
happened. These are events in your life. So they don't look the same as if it was just like a regular book. You know what I mean? You see where I'm coming
Yes,
from, right?
I can see what you're saying. I mean, it's like I said, it's not just some book that I could control the end, the
Right.
middle, or the beginning, and I
Mm-hmm.
just told it like came to me. There were a lot of things that I didn't expect from growing up in the household that I did. And that's the reason why it was even more shocking. And I think it was more apropos as far as me carrying out this endeavor to become an author, to explain to people not necessarily that they have to accept the status quo, accept the um, corruption. This is more or less my book is, I guess I kind of, I think about the Laquan McDonald shooting that happened in Chicago. And if it was not for the body cams that actually witnessed this event, it may have never gotten out. And the
Mm.
police would have been able to cover it up. In my case, in a situation whereas I put it on paper.
Mm.
And that's what makes it a little bit more unique to me in my perspective of something that I would definitely want to read and try
Mm.
to enjoy and understand, because I tell you in the book, there are a lot of laws that I identify that were ignored uh, in regards to my mother's passing. My siblings, there's a state law that you're required to submit will of the decedent 30 days after the death. Well,
Mm-hmm.
my siblings waited 3 years.
Mm.
And prior to that, they ransacked the estate, and that wasn't necessary. I know a lot of people, I have had some reviews and said it was meager, but to me, it was not an issue about how much it was worth. It was about the respect and the honor of my beloved mother.
Yeah. Wow. This is crazy. So your book, let's go through this because I know we have people hanging by a thread going, what the heck can I expect
Right.
from this book? So, we talked about the book last time, but we didn't really get in too much detail. But I want to go into a little bit more detail today, just a little bit,
Okay.
to talk about the book, the trial, and the outcome.
The trial and the outcome. Well,
Not
there
the
were
complete outcome,
no, no, no,
just
no, no. I'm not tell you complete outcome, but I'll
a,
tell
li-
you.
a little bit.
Uh, I'll tell you exactly how things transpired, as far as from a legal aspect in regards to going through the procedure in the Circuit Court of Cook County, Illinois Probate Division. Uh, like I said earlier today, my siblings submitted a will 3 years after my mother's death, which is definitely a crime, but it was ignored.
Mm,
There were other documents that one of the siblings filled out. It was called a small estate affidavit. That particular document was ignored. And there was a quitclaim deed that was filed all before they filed this mysterious will that they came up with. And as a result of that, I
mm,
got involved with one lawyer. And in fact, I had to fire him. His name was Robert Howard. And Robert Howard told me that he had the tenacity of a pit bull and he was going to straighten this all out. And I wanted to hear from him specifically as to what he had gained from his investigation. And I called him, I emailed him. This was when you had pages back in the day. I blew his page up, as they say, and he
mm-hmm.
never did respond. And immediately, when I get a letter from the Pat Hart, the unscrupulous counselor that my siblings retained, and they filed a will, mysterious will from somewhere.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
I met Robert Howard on the 18th floor of the probate court, and I was totally done with him. And he proceeded to try to tell me or bring me up to speed as to all the unlawful activity. Well, not necessarily unlawful activity. I knew that will was not valid.
Mm-hmm.
So when they did that, I immediately fired him. And I don't know what it was, Yaya, but when they announced my mother's name to go into the court, I immediately got up and went towards the bench. And the judge looked at me like, "What's going on here? What's happening?" I said, "She filled out a small estate affidavit." He said, "Well, what do you want me to do? You got a lawyer?" He didn't know I got rid of the lawyer that I had at the time.
Mm,
And one of the siblings she had kind of, I guess, she's very charming. I think, I call her a sociopath because some of the attributes or behavior patterns that I seen my sister exhibit at the time, about 5 or 6 of the habits she possesses as far as someone being a sociopath.
mm.
And that's an antisocial personality or disorder where
Mm-hmm.
they can't actually love people. They look at people as objects.
Right.
So they're always conning to try to figure out some kind of way to manipulate or deceive or you couldn't trust, and they love to connect with children who don't know any better. And so when she said, when we got up to the court, the judge immediately he told us that he confirmed the heirs that were involved in the estate, and he said that this was a mess. And at that point, I got another attorney, and I was so frustrated, going back and forth, and not somebody listening to me and ignoring me. I mean, the indifference that you see is because I saw it when I initially found out about these things, and I went to the Chicago Police Department, and they bounced me off of every wall in the 4th District. Couldn't get a response. And in fact, I went up to meet with the detectives, and they knew what the crime was about, but they wouldn't. The uniform officers would not initiate a report. The Chicago Police Department would not file a report because they did not know how to classify the crime at the particular time. It was a white collar crime that was committed, and they didn't know how to investigate it. Normally, the FBI gets into those financial crimes involving banks and fraud, and the average Chicago police officer is not well versed on how to address those issues in the communities.
Right.
So basically, it was up to me. And like I said, it was a part of the book. I get into somber mediation when I talk about there are vehicles in the court to deal with family issues, but the issues that impacted my mother's estate was so extreme that we couldn't mediate. That's like a robber, going to the house to negotiate the that they stolen as a result of the burglary. You don't bargain with a burglar. You don't say, hey, you took my bike, how much you gonna pay me for it? Well, I'll give $500. No, it don't work like that. So you can't bargain with a person who has broken the law. And that's the way I felt at that time. I wasn't going to bargain and go back and forth with them. And to this day, I think you asked me for a photo of my mother, and I just so happen to have one photo. But as far as any additional photos, I don't have anything. Don't have anything. They just cut me completely off.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's why we have Lovingly and Orderly, a son's lament, right here. That's why we have it right here. That's right. What it's all about. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to tell this story. I feel proud of myself. I feel proud of my accomplishments. And I think others should, acknowledge that as well. When they do something right and it, stick to your guns. Never give up. Always fight for what's right. Because you will be blessed in the end.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, I want to thank you for talking about this. I mean, people need to go ahead and check this out. When it comes to probate and family and just, oh my goodness, it can become a real struggle. What kind of advice do you give people who may be going through something like this right now and they don't see any hope for themselves and they just see a division between them and the people that they love?
Wow, that's like the $64 million question. I really don't know what to say. I couldn't even come up with an answer for that because, I mean, there are so many things that go on in families as far as rearing of their children and the children being able to, they have different roles, and the mother is kind of she's like a manager of a team, and she could be able to know deficiencies, strong points of her children, and those issues themselves cause jealousy sometimes, and not to mention if in-laws, the grandchildren get involved, and God knows that whoever else, because my siblings, they use every legal source illegally to accomplish their mission. So, I mean, I love my siblings. Don't get me wrong. And in the front of my book, I tell you that about my grandfather when he said that his prayer for his family was that they should love one another. And I'm more or less not hurt, but I'm just disappointed. I would say, And as far as being able to address any issue that you confront as far as your loved one, is to always be upfront. Never have any hidden agendas.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is very important that you work with integrity, respect, and honor for those who have passed on, and live according to their legacy, not yours. If they had a certain, and I deal with a lot of my relatives who are older and have, they suffer from stages of dementia. In fact, I tell you about my grandmother in the book, who eventually got real bad in the dementia, and she had to eventually have her legs amputated. And she went on. She died a long time ago. But it's life is very complex, and to be able to understand the attitudes and behaviors, you almost got to be a manager of your feelings, your emotions. Don't allow anybody to get you angry. Don't allow anybody to tell you something that is not the truth. Don't try to figure that you could be able to join sides with somebody. Just be upfront. That's the best advice I could give to anybody. And think about what the loved one who had passed along would want you to do, and the legacy in them living their lives. And that's the most important thing I think that you should, look at.
Right. Wow. Well,
Or
Theodore, thank
consider.
you so much.
Okay, I'm just overwhelmed, I guess, to talk to you about this today and getting the word out about my book. I definitely want it to be a book of a change, a book that will make a difference in people's lives, as far as them being able to understand that, the materialistic effects of this world are not as important as loving each other. I mean, those are standards that will remain and stand the test of time. Love is always in order. Always have love and order, and I don't think you'll go wrong.
Yeah, I hear you. Wow. Well, Theodore, thank you guys so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Theodore Ted Shorter Jr. And that was part two. I would say, if you're very interested in this, if you're going through a probate, if you're going through issues, I would say, the book may just help you get through. It might even make your life seem a little bit better. I don't know, because we
Right.
just don't know where you're at. We don't know if you're better or worse. But in all this retrospect, everyone's experience can be a guide to what you may be going through today. So you might want to consider going ahead and getting that. Where can people get that book, and where can people find you?
They can find me on my website, lovinglyandorderly.com, as well as the book is also sold on Amazon um, and Barnes and Nobles. I hopefully will get to the point where the book is on the shelves. I'm going to be doing some additional promotional activity to try to get it into the libraries, because I know a lot of people have asked me, who may not have the resources available during these times of inflation, to be able to, pay for the book. They can always be able to check it out from the library. And I think that that would be an excellent choice for those who so have to be going through these hard times, to be able to read the book. It covers so many different arenas in the family. And I definitely think that the book is not only for those would who are dealing with things in probate, but dealing with family issues that they have to confront, and making sure that they don't fall prey to the endemic ignorance that's prevalent throughout the community. And a lot of it you see daily on the news, and you see the crime tape, the police around talking, and then after the smoke is cleared, it's back to reality.
Yeah.
And there are lives that are affected by that criminal activity. That Blair Holt, for example, a young man that was murdered on the CTA. I mean, his legacy continues on because his parents keep making you aware of what they experience as far as their traumatic situation, and they don't want it to occur to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. It truly is sad that we have to go through this and that we have to see these things happen.
Right.
So we're just going to go ahead and say that if you're interested, please go and check that book out, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and hopefully in the library soon. And maybe even a movie. Just
Right.
saying. Just
Right.
saying.
Right.
Well, Theodore, thank you so much.
It would definitely be a good movie, given
It
the
would be.
fact that you have the testimonies from the opponents in the book itself. Like I told you from our previous interview, that gives the book credibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I couldn't. I don't think that I could have written a story the way that I did without those depositions. There are 7 depositions and each deposition, it kind of, you find out more and more, and you'll be able to get more and more in the story. You're trying to figure out how, and the one sibling who's been manipulating and, trying to deal make and controlling. And so those are the personalities that you deal with in families, those people who have those, because there are a lot of mental health issues that are going on in our community that affect families. A lot of things, people now, they're bipolar, paranoid, schizophrenic. So all these issues may not manifest themselves until the passing of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not even know that your sibling has this security or this hidden agenda that you never really was able to understand.
Right.
So it's a lot of different nuances and personalities, like it is in everything in life, where you have to deal with different attitudes and behaviors of people in general. Yeah. And the desire for money, the desire to get it, like that man said on the commercial, I want my money and I want it now.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh my goodness. We're not going to get into that because I can go through, we can spend another 30, 40 minutes talking about that. Oh my gosh. Right. But if you guys are interested, go ahead and check that book out. It's at lovinglyandorderly.com as well as on Amazon. It's Lovingly and Orderly, A Son to Lament. You can get that on Amazon. I mean, thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you so much for being transparent and, not hiding what your family went through. Because I mean, literally, there's so many people that can probably benefit from this book. There's a lot of people that can probably benefit from this book.
I would like my book to be a catalyst for change. A catalyst for change. A catalyst for the change our attitudes to realize that, we don't have to live as savages amongst each other, to do things with love and order. That was the prayer for my mother and her family.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Shorter, for being on the show. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. We're going to have all of that information in the description box below so that it'll be easy for you guys to find it and check it out for yourselves. Thank you again so much, Mr. Theodore, for being on the show. And don't forget, you guys, love one another, please. Come on. Just, okay. I'll just get along.
Yeah.
I did to be different. I did.